You're listening to the Third Down Squad podcast, the best international news podcast for the National Football League. We're your hosts, Derek, Josh, and Toby. Let's get you ready for new set downs on Sunday.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Third Down Squad podcast. We have just finished week 10 of the NFL. Jeez, these weeks are going by so fast. It's crazy. We're going to go into our weekly recap from last week's games. Now, just to make sure everyone understands this, we were just talking about this less than a second ago. I went 3-10. Okay, I went 3-10. Toby and Josh here went 4-9.
What were the games that decided it? What were the games?
The one game that decided it all was you guys picking the Vikings over the Cowboys, and I picked the Cowboys over the Vikings in that one. Otherwise, first was that.
I remember I joked about going like 0-12 or something like that, and how close I actually was.
Well, and here's the thing. So we all picked the Raiders. We all picked the Ravens. I picked the Browns over the Bills. I got that one right, and Toby and Josh didn't. They picked the Packers to win. That was a close one, but they got that one, and I missed with the Panthers. And then they obviously picked the Vikings and the Cowboys over that. One thing I just want to mention to anyone that thinks, oh, these guys are terrible at picking games. Well, first off, our records are pretty good so far this year. I'm 91-55-1. Toby's 89-57-1. Josh is 83-63-1.
That's baloney right there.
Josh has basically is predicting about 65% of his games correctly. Toby and I are closer to mid-70s when we're doing it. But, I mean, we're doing this stuff we gather what we hear from that weekend. We do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're gathering information and we're doing podcasts usually on a Thursday right before the week starts. And a lot of times certain things happen that we're not taking into account or can't take into account, like the fact that Matt Stafford decided to break his hand over the weekend and wasn't able to play. And ultimately, I think we're all in agreement here that if Matt Stafford had broken his hand on Wednesday and we had known about it, then we wouldn't have picked the Lions to win that game. But anyway, like I mentioned, this was a bad week for a lot of teams that should have won but didn't. This is pretty much the NFL, folks. It's what I've been saying for the longest time. It's any given week. Any team can beat anybody. And we're going to get into that here now. So, first game, Thursday night football game between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Oakland Raiders. And Toby has something new for you guys. He's going to have the stats up at the bottom of the screen there for you so you can look at everything there to kind of take a look at what happened during the game. But basically, Phillip Rivers had himself an awful first half. The Raiders got off to a really hot start. And although the Chargers made it a close game in the end, were not able to make the final comeback, and the Raiders improved their record, and they are now sitting at a 5-4 record. I think that's right. It should be 5-4. That's impressive given none of us expected this. Toby, what were your thoughts on this game?
Well, like you said, it was close in the end, but with the Chargers, it's kind of a theme this season, and all of their 6 losses they have this season so far came by one possession, which is the most in the NFL for losses. But on the Raiders side, you really got to take into account the rookies that they have so far this season. For the Raiders, all rookies have scored 13 scrimmage touchdowns so far, which also leads the NFL. Josh Jacobs has 7 of them, which I really like because I have him on my fantasy team. But the one thing that the Raiders struggle a little bit is the passing defense, which showed against the Chargers as well. Phillip Rivers, like you said, in the second half, he had a pretty good game. But over the last 4 games, the Raiders have allowed 13 passing touchdowns. So it's a little bit. It's 3.25 touchdowns passing each game, which you put that together, it's over 21 points only for passing, not accounting for rushing touchdowns. So that's maybe a point that should be a concern for the Raiders, the coming draft or off season to kind of take care of that. But yeah, I mean, give the rock to Josh Jacobs for now, and that's it.
All right, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs has proved that he could possibly be the offensive rookie of the year. Possibly. You know, there's still a couple other people out there, but I think he's top runner. But I'm surprised the Raiders turned around their season so fast, you know? We all were going into the season saying that they're going to be like 6-10, something ridiculous like that, but they've proven us wrong. And I think they're going to just keep playing hard. And like I said, the Chargers got that one against the Packers. And now they're going to lose the rest of the season. It's going to happen. Just watch.
Well, while I don't agree with that statement, he definitely hasn't been wrong so far. Anyways, next game. Our first Sunday game, which was the Ravens versus the Bengals, where Lamar Jackson put on a show. We obviously have all seen the clip of him completely spinning out the Bengals secondary, literally. I mean, there's not much more you can really say about this one. Ravens dominated in every fashion. Bengals are still 0-9. Josh, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Is Lamar Jackson is like a cook or something? Because he roasted that Bengals defense right there. I've never seen him torching like that in years. Clearly, he's like the pinnacle dual threat quarterback. Just like how he destroyed the Patriots defense. He pretty much just ran over that Bengals defense and nobody was stopping him. And I think a lot of it has to do with that, with the play style and the playbook of the Ravens offense by adjusting for him. You know, not a lot of teams do that in the NFL, that adjust to their quarterback strengths to the extent of what the Ravens coaching staff has done. It's proven that it's working, and that's all they need to show. It's working.
Tobi?
Yeah, to kind of add to all that hype around Lamar Jackson, I got 3 stats on Lamar Jackson right here. First off, in the last 2 games, he had 7 total touchdowns, 4 of which came with a pass, and 3 were rushing touchdowns, underlining that he is kind of a running back quarterback hybrid, like we all been saying. He also has a NFL record as being the first quarterback to have 50 plus rush yards and 1 rush touchdown in 4 consecutive games. And he is also, wait, I got one more. Oh yeah, he is in the 16 games that he started for the Ravens since week 11 last year. He is 13-3, which is the second most wins by a starting quarterback in that span since really 1 year since in the regular season. The other thing to add on the Baltimore side is Mark Ingram, who's been fantastic for them. He's not the big run guy, but he's been effective in the red zone so far this season, and it's underlined that all his touchdowns so far this season come out of the red zone, so no long touchdown runs so far this season for Mark Ingram, which we already saw with him the past couple of years for the Saints. And on the other side of the ball, the Bengals actually only started 0-9 once before in the history of their franchise in 1993. So we always say the Bengals are a bad team, but this year it's especially bad for them.
All right, next game. Bills versus the Browns. Like I said before, I'm the pick this one to be right. Certainly looked like the Bills were definitely the Bills were off to a hot start for certain. And the Browns, despite their numerous bad habits, were able to actually pull this one out. even though this win certainly does not make Freddie Kitchens look any better for this matter. But Tobi, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, first off, it was the first time this year that Baker Mayfield had 2 touchdown passes. So that much for the savior of Cleveland. And also, a lot of people feared with Kareem Hunt back on the field after his suspension that Nick Chubb that they would split carries more and Nick Chubb's carries would be cut. It was actually the complete opposite case, as Nick Chubb had more carries than ever this season, even with Kareem Hunt on the field. And yeah, on the other side, the Bills, I'm not sure what to make of the Bills. They have had a really good season so far, but then they lose to a Browns team that we've been talking about hasn't really lived up to the expectations that everybody had in the offseason. And they lose to the Browns, so it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see the Bills yet again in the playoffs, which they were actually in the race for. But one thing the Bills kind of have to continue to do is that they are the only team in the NFL so far that hasn't allowed a 100-yard receiver. So if you keep playing like that, especially if you're going up against the Patriots, you have a good chance to win those important games and not do what they did against the Browns.
Josh?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Browns just got their stuff together in the very last second, which can be seen by that field goal. But the Bills, man, I don't know what's going on with them. Like, they're hot one time and then they're mediocre the other time. I don't want to say this is like a fluke win by the Browns, but I'd say it's in the realm of being a lucky win. Because if I'm Freddie Kitchens, I'm trying to win out the rest of the season because your job's on the line. I mean, they handed you this team with a lot of talent, and mediocrity is what you get. He has to start making some changes, otherwise the Browns will make changes without him.
All right, and next game that we have is the Panthers versus the Packers, which actually got moved to a 4:25 game, but we're just going to leave it in for that reason. Like I mentioned before, I'm the only one that picked the Panthers. The Packers ended up winning this one in Lambeau on a snowy day. The Panthers were actually able to get into the red zone to finish the game, but were not able to capitalize in the final bit, and the Packers finished out the game with a win. Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, it shows you what happens when you pay attention to the defense. Green Bay, they actually are able to do a fourth and goal stop at the 1. It finally paid off to get a defense around Aaron Rodgers' Packers, and it really has shown that it can and will end up working in the long run. So it was a good win by the Packers.
Tobi?
Yeah, both of the teams right now are led by their running backs. First off, Aaron Jones was the main contributor in that game for Green Bay with his 3 rush touchdowns. And on the other side, you have Christian McCaffrey, who had his 7th consecutive game with a touchdown in it, which is he's the only player to do it, to have a touchdown in the last 7 games. Not even guys like Michael Thomas or DeAndre Hopkins or other guys have that. And if you look at the defense for the Panthers, they are actually vulnerable against the run right now. If you only look at it at a fantasy stat-wise, the Panthers have allowed 23 or more points against opposing running backs in for the last 5 games. So if you're playing the Panthers right now, just run the ball and basically try and throw the least amount of times you can.
All right, and now, Tobi, we mentioned we were possibly going to do this. Let's just go ahead and try doing this now. We're going to just kind of skip the Colts and Saints recap. We'll kind of just mention it as part of our recap in general here. We'll just go with the Saints and the Colts as well. Anyway,
Right.
next game, the Falcons versus the Saints. One of those games this week where everyone was kind of very caught surprised by this. Certainly not the game that I think 90% of America was anticipating to happen. So I didn't get to watch much of the game, so I can't really say anything. Tobi, this is your team, man. What happened?
Oh, it was bad. And I mean, when you only see Atlanta having 6 sacks in that one game against the Saints, who usually have one of the best defensive lines in the game, and they only came into the game with 7 combined sacks for the entire season so far, it looks bad. But then you hear that Teron Armstead, their Pro Bowl left tackle, came half dead into that game because they had to start him because they didn't really have a backup for left tackle. He had the flu and was just not himself that day. Then Andrew Speed broke his forearm during the game, so another lineman fell out during the game. It just played all in favor for the Falcons this time around. That's where the sacks came in. The Saints never really established a run. Alvin Kamara, I believe, had 42 yards. Let me check that. 24 yards. Sorry, not even 42 yards on 4 attempts only. So if you'll read those numbers, you have to run the ball more often with Alvin Kamara than 4 times in an entire game. And your only receiver on the Saints right now is Michael Thomas. And it's not going to work out when you throw the ball as much as the Saints did on Sunday. Drew Brees had to hold the ball longer than he usually does, which led to a lot of sacks because he didn't have the time because of the injured O-line. I think it will be better this week against Tampa Bay, though, because Teron Armstead will hopefully be healthy. Andrew Speed is out, but Will Clapp will probably fill the role pretty well when he has more practice during the week with the first team. But on the other hand, the Falcons played it really well. Devontae Freeman got injured during the game, but they had Brian Hill come in and lead them with rushing, and all the other parts like Julio Jones just functioned really well. So I gotta give it to the Falcons this time.
Josh?
Man, you're desperate when you got a guy who's sick with the flu that has to come in and play. Man, when I get the flu, I can barely get up and go to class in the morning. But to actually go out there and play football with the flu, man, you're just like Jordan in the NBA Finals. My hat's off to you, sir, because I'm usually dead. But like Derek was explaining to me at the football stadium, it's just that 1 week where the stars align for the sucky teams to actually get a win against really good teams. So I don't think this will happen. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen again, but I think it's going to happen less frequently like it did on that day where we ended up going like 4-9 and 3-10 in our decisions. So I just think that that Drew Brees has to get rid of the ball faster, regardless of if his wide receivers are covered or not, because your own line is sick and not really healthy right now. So hopefully it gets better.
All right, next game, Lions versus the Bears, where I mentioned how the Matt Stafford had broken his hand and was not able to play during this game, and the Bears were able to actually put together a decent performance. I think it was said that Trubisky only threw, I think, for 170 passing yards. I can't remember. It should be 73. That's right. And he actually had quite a few touchdowns, which was different than what Mitch Trubisky is used to. So the Bears were able to put together the performance and were able to win at home. Josh, your thoughts?
Before I get to that, Quick NFL news: the Cleveland Browns have cut Antonio Callaway.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
But,
Interesting.
I just found that out through my cousin. So if you have any problems, direct it to him. I'm not going to dox him at this moment or anything like that. So
Gotcha.
just forget. But anyway, the one time I picked the Lions to not Lions it up, Matt Stafford decides to break his hand. Wow. I don't know what the heck's gotten into the Bears, but it's really weird. Because here they are, last year, one missed field goal away and chasing Cody Parkey out of the city to mediocrity, It's just weird how the NFL works. But Mitchell Trubisky, I think turning off those TVs really helped him mentally, Because he doesn't need to hear people telling him that he sucks when he already knows it himself with the way he's been playing lately. So I think it was a good thing for him to turn those TVs off, focus on his game, and look at what happened. They won. Sure, it's against the Lions, but a win's a win.
Toby?
Yeah, like Josh said, it's for the Bears offense, it's all in Trubisky. He had 3 passing touchdowns in this game, despite not having that many passing yards, which is surprising. But if you think that he only had 2 passing touchdowns in the previous 4 games and now come out against the Lions, who supposedly have a good defense, and he throws 3 passing touchdowns, that's a little bit surprising, and none of which were to Allen Robinson. That's even more surprising, their number 1 receiver right now. On the other hand, it was not only Matt Stafford that was missing for the Lions, it's also Kerryon Johnson, who is on IR right now. He's the only Lions running back with 100+ rushing yards in a game for the last 6 seasons. So that's the thing that the Lions need right now and don't have. But yeah, the Bears actually managed to get a little bit of offense on the field. And if they can continue to play a bit of offense, I mean, the Bears are not that bad. You saw it last year.
All right. Next game, Giants versus the Jets. We all kind of anticipated the Giants to win, but the Jets were able to pull it out. Jamal Adams had the crazy fumble recovery. I don't know if you can necessarily call it a fumble recovery, but he had the sack where he stole the ball from Daniel Jones just straight out of his hip pocket and took it all the way back. So Jets win their second straight game, or no, they actually didn't win their second straight game. I'm just saying that they're now won their second game, and I mean, Giants just look like the Giants again. Daniel Jones had a terrible day. Saquon Barkley vowed after this game that he will not play like that ever again. Toby, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, Daniel Jones is really turning into a decent NFL quarterback right now with having his 4 passing touchdowns, and that without a legitimate receiving threat on the team right now. It's impressive. We really underestimated him during the draft period, but the Giants might have actually picked a quarterback that is half decent on the field. And on the other hand, what's going on with the Jets? One week they're out there, Sam Darnold is seeing ghosts, and the other week they are a legitimate good NFL team, even without a running game right now. Even with Le'Veon Bell, it's his biggest drought so far since his rookie season, with not having 100 rushing yards in the first 9 games of this season so far. But like you said, Derek, their defense is actually playing pretty good, especially with that Jamal Adams touchdown last week. They may have the base for a decent team.
Josh?
Yeah, but when we saw the highlights, Derek, I was like, hello, I'd like to report a robbery, because Jamal Adams just came in, said, that's my ball, give it to me, I'll be taking that, and ran away and got a touchdown. Like, Like literally.
If anyone doesn't understand exactly what he's talking about, just go to Jamal's Twitter. You'll figure that out pretty quickly.
But I've never seen theft in a football game like that. He literally ran through Saquon Barkley, got up to Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is like, oh. He literally just ripped the ball out of his hands. I've never seen that really happen before, where Barkley gets bullied by Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams grabs the ball out of Daniel Jones's hands and gets a touchdown. You know, all right, really quick. This is a question to all our Giants listeners here. Let's say you still knew that Daniel Jones is going to get drafted in the NFL, like in this previous draft, but you had the chance to take a different player in the 2018 draft. Would you still take Saquon Barkley, or would you take Quentin Nelson? What do you guys think? If you knew you were going to get Daniel Jones, would you still take Saquon, or would you go for Quentin Nelson with that second pick in the 2018 draft? I don't mean to change it really quick, but I've been sitting on this question for quite a while.
All right, next one. Chiefs versus the Giants.
All right, you're just going to blow off that damn question?
Yep. He's just dodging it.
Yep,
Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah, we're just going to let everybody
You're
else.
going to matrix.
Yeah.
You're going to matrix the shit out of that question?
Yeah, we are going to matrix it. All right, live with it.
That was an open question. That was an open
Live
question
with
to
it.
you guys and then all the listeners here. They literally just pretended I was just talking out of my ass right there.
Well, I think I know exactly what they would pick, okay? They would pick Saquon, okay? We're moving on. All right.
Even though that offensive line is garbage?
Their offensive line, believe me, is not their biggest worry. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. All right. Chiefs versus the Titans.
I'm just saying right now. That
We're going to the Chiefs versus the Titans. I don't want to hear it. The Titans pull off the big win against Kansas City. Oh my gosh. See, folks, we never have a dull moment, do we? Gosh. Chiefs versus the Titans.
I'm just saying, though.
Stop talking about it. Jesus. Gosh. Can we talk about the fact that the Titans just mollywopped the Chiefs? Can we talk about that for a second?
No. Can we talk about how he just said mollywop? Can we just talk about how he said mollywop? Who the hell is saying that? This is no longer the 50s,
There's plenty
Derek.
of people that still say that, all right? Chill, okay?
I would like a dry sink with my mollywop over here while I go get my jollies off.
Josh, do you have any words to say about this Titans versus Chiefs game?
Well, I'm going to say they got mollywopped by the Titans.
Shut
Derek Henry really mollywopped the Chiefs defense, rushing for all those yards.
That's what you're going to do, huh? That's what you're going to do?
Brian Tannehill really mollywopped the cornerbacks for the Chiefs. He threw for a lot of yards. I can't keep a straight face right now.
You guys are such... I hate you so much.
I'm gonna change my fantasy team name to Mollywoppers.
That'd be funny.
All right, go ahead, Toby. I totally just dismantled that whole question. I'm done answering that one.
Well, I only have one thing really to say about the game, and the last play of the game, it was not an offside for the Titans. A lot of people say it was offside to block that field goal, but if you look at the video, it's just a perfectly timed jump, and they just blocked the field goal to kind of not tie the game up and for the Titans to win the game. So it was well played by the Titans. They couldn't contain Patrick Mahomes, but their offense finally figured something out without Marcus Mariota, so they can at least score a couple of points themselves.
Yeah, some would say they got mollywopped.
Can you shut up? Jesus. Gosh. I regret even talking. All right, next game, Cardinals versus the Bucs. Another game where we all picked the Cardinals, assuming that they would do better offensively. And the Buccaneers beat them. So, again, another game I really didn't get to see a whole lot of, so I don't really know a whole lot of this one. But all I know is the Cardinals lost and the Bucs won. So, Josh, do you got anything to add to that?
The one time I pick the Cardinals, they lose. But every time I don't pick them, they somehow win. What's going on here? I don't know. Some might say that they merely got mollywalked by the Buccaneers, but I beg to differ.
I'm trying really hard to keep my tongue. Please don't make me go crazy here, okay? Tobi.
Tobi, you know the word to use for
No,
this one.
Tobi, you use it. I'm leaving. Okay, I'm leaving.
All right. Yeah, I haven't seen much of the game either, but I read the stats afterwards, and one thing that surprised me is that Jameis Winston is actually tied for the most games over 300 yards of the season in the NFL right now. How the heck did Jameis Winston do that and still be considered one of the worst quarterbacks in the league right now? On the other
Don't
hand,
know how that works.
Yeah, on the other hand, for the Titans right now, we said it a lot. Kyler Murray is kind of getting used to playing in the NFL and being the dual threat quarterback that the Cardinals wanted him to be. And right now, he's the only quarterback with 2,500 passing yards and over 250 rushing yards in their first 10 career starts. The only other quarterbacks to do that are Deshaun Watson, Cam Newton, and Dante Culpepper. So he's in pretty good company there. So he might actually be one of the better dual threat quarterbacks in the league. Let's see how the rest of it plays out. But he has to find Larry Fitzgerald a little bit more. Right now, Larry Fitzgerald hasn't had a receiving touchdown over the last 7 games. So, come on, Colin. Just give one of the all-time greats a couple more touchdown passes.
All right. Next game is one that Josh and I went to Sunday.
Oh
and
boy!
certainly
Oh
did
boy!
not
Oh boy!
Go the way we wanted. Dolphins defeated the Colts in Indianapolis Sunday. Brian Hoyer was atrocious. Basically threw 3
Garbage.
interceptions in this game. The Eric Ebron did not perform the way he said he was going to. And basically Adam Vinatieri missed an extra point yet again. So, basically Colts lost, and we're going to be talking about Vinatieri here in a few minutes. So, Josh, your thoughts?
Well, I vented a whole lot in the car ride down there, but for those of you that weren't a part of that car ride, here's pretty much what I said. We were garbage. Absolute garbage tier team. Like, we didn't even deserve to play in front of those greats right there because we were garbage. Marlon Mack, he ran pretty well until his knees decided to give out because it looked like something was wrong there. Brian Hoyer, man, oh man, did he suck. Oh my gosh. You remember that second pick he threw? Derek, the one that was right to what's his face? Yep. Yeah. Everybody in that stadium wanted to throw beers at him. Like, it was literally that bad. But you know what? Review that damn interception with Ebron. That was horse shit, and I'm telling you that now. I was pissed, and I'm sorry for swearing, but it still pisses me off that they just didn't go, well, let's redo the entire play because, we can't tell. And come on, Frank, throw the challenge flag. I know it's not pass interference, so you got a chance of winning this one.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, our defense played very well, except for letting up Ryan Fitzpatrick run the ball into the end zone. If Brissett played, we would have won. I don't know what happened to this team, but it was ridiculous. Ebron, if you're going to talk like that, you got to show up. You didn't really show up all that well. I know that Hoyer throwing it to the Dolphins defense didn't help you, but On that fourth down, you had the ball. You just couldn't make it one more yard. Seriously? Come on, man. Come on.
Toby, any words on this?
Yeah, like Josh already said, Eric Ebron has to do more in the game. He had 12 targets in that game, only caught 5 of them. So he wasn't the Eric Ebron that we were used to from last year. And on the Brian Hoyer side, it was his 10th consecutive loss when he started a game. So you guys might get lucky and don't have to see another Brian Hoyer start this week.
All right, next game, Rams versus the Steelers. Another game where we all picked the Rams. And the Steelers, again, Steelers have actually been one of the best teams in the NFL over the last 6 weeks. They are an overtime away from being 6-6 in their last 6 games. They've been looking like one of the best teams in the NFL right now, and their defense has just been locked down. And with the Rams, safe to say, I think Sean McVay's time of being a young genius on the offensive side is starting to wear off. I think it really is. And unfortunately, that's just how the Rams are. Toby, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, first off to Sean McVay, I think it helped him a lot the first couple of years that he had one of the most talented teams in the league on offense as his team. And right now you're feeling that they don't really have a run game. Todd Gurley is, due to the injuries, not the same guy that we saw the first couple of years in his career. So I think they might have to get somebody in there that can run the ball more effectively right now than Todd Gurley is able to. And I think that also opens up a lot more for the passing game, which they struggle with. Also, I think it was an injury to Brandon Cooks or an illness. I'm not sure right now. Didn't help them either. So, but all in all, it's kind of a story of the season for the Rams so far that they kind of seem. I mean, I said it the first couple of weeks. They seem slow. They don't have the pace that they used to have. So. Let's see about the Steelers, though. Derek said they were one of the best teams in the NFL. They actually lead the NFL in games in November since 2017 with a record of 8-1. That's one stat for you. And they also probably made one of the best trades in the history in the NFL this year with Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, the guy is dominating on the field right now. I think it's 5 turnovers that he created in the span of the couple of games that he was been with the Steelers. So he's done a lot more than the team has done in the first weeks without him. So they gave up a lot for him, but it paid out for the Steelers in the end.
Josh?
You see, the Steelers are starting to piss me off because either they're supposed to be good or they're supposed to be bad. Now, let me clarify this. When they are supposed to be bad and lose games, they win them. And surprisingly, they do it efficiently. And when they're supposed to, when they're supposed to win, I should say, sorry, they lose. For as good as they are still very inconsistent when it comes to games. But I do agree that the addition of Minkah Fitzpatrick has changed that defense a lot to where they now feel good about having a deep threat guy getting covered by Minkah Fitzpatrick, something that they really lacked. And for Minkah Fitzpatrick to only be there a year in Miami, it just shows you that he still has potential, and he's going to be able to go a long time while in Pittsburgh. And yeah, Derek, I think the Rams, with Sean McVay, I think finally his young, hot shot kind of attitude is finally caught up with them to the point where I think teams are going to stop looking for, young, hot shot head coaches because he started it. by changing Jared Goff, you know? So I think there's going to be a coaching change here pretty soon. Well, not necessarily for the Rams, but like the age, I guess, that teams will be looking for.
All right. Next game, Vikings versus the Cowboys. Ron did not pick the Vikings. I mean, the Cowboys, I don't even know what to say about them. They're just so inconsistent every single week. You never know what the issue is going to be. And ironically, it wasn't even Dak Prescott that had the biggest issues. He actually had a relatively decent game that week. So certainly wasn't on him. It was just the rest of the team that did not step up. And given how piss poor the Vikings have looked the last 2 weeks, hard to just imagine that the Vikings went in there and dominated the Cowboys the way they did. Josh, any thoughts?
Zeke has to get more involved in that offense, you know? Every time I watch the Cowboys game, it's always Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper, with Zeke taking a back seat when he used to be in the driver's seat. Now, I don't know if it was because of him getting paid or anything like that, but we've seen this before where if a running back or somebody else asks for a higher paying money, like contract, they tend to get what I call heavy wallet syndrome, to where that money that they got in their contract is weighing down their ability to run because they want to protect themselves for the future. And I don't know if that's what Zeke's doing, or it's just the fact that Kellen Moore is just going more aerial instead of running this year, because I haven't really seen Zeke do much this year compared to years past, I should say.
Yeah, Josh, I agree with you on one point that you don't see much of Ezekiel Elliott, and it was the same with Minnesota, but they tried to run it with him. He had 20 attempts on Sunday against the Vikings, but he only managed to get 47 yards off that 20 attempts, so an average of 2.4 yards per attempt. It's not even gonna get you the 10 yards you need with 4 attempts on the average. So I don't think when you have a game like that, they are not putting that much on Zeke and try to get it more over Dak Prescott. And the thing is, with Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott, it's working out for them. Amari Cooper, since he joined the Cowboys, he's the most successful wide receiver touchdown-wise in the NFL with 13 touchdowns over 17 games. So why not lean on Amari Cooper? Apparently, he scores the touchdowns with Dak there. But this week, they had the trouble of stopping Dalvin Cook, and when you have a running back on the other side that has almost 200 scrimmage yards against you, there's definitely something wrong. And last year, the Cowboys were one of the best teams against the run or against the the running back passing attack. This year, it doesn't seem like it. Leighton Vander Esch, it feels like, is not the same type of middle linebacker anymore that he was last year. He was dominating opposing running backs, but this year it kind of feels a bit off with the linebackers for the Cowboys. So they struggle against good running backs, and we saw that on Sunday.
All right, last game, Seahawks versus the 49ers. This is definitely a back and forth kind of game. The 49ers obviously did not have George Kittle, making it difficult for them to throw the football, it seemed. But the Seahawks were able to pull this out in overtime. And I think the one thing that kind of mentions this about the 49ers is Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't been the guy this year. He hasn't been the guy, and I think the 49ers are going to be limited by his ability to play. I mean, not saying that the dude is terrible. Obviously not. He's not been playing terrible by any stretch this year. He's been a pretty good quarterback. But for the money he's getting paid, which is now pretty much the third highest contract in football, if I'm not mistaken, he's not producing the numbers that we expected of him. I mean, like I said, I don't think he's been bad. I think he's been good. I just don't think he's been great. And when you're getting paid that kind of money and your team needs you to be that way, sometimes you need to be that way. And so far this season, he's been a little bit of a shell of himself in some ways. Toby, what do you think?
I think Jimmy Garoppolo had his ups and downs this season. He had a couple of games. I think it was week 8 that he had the 4 passing touchdowns in that game, where they couldn't do anything with their running backs or with their defense, and Jimmy Garoppolo basically won them that game. But like you said last week, he had 2 fumbles and 1 interception, I believe. So that's something he has to clean up. And on the other side, of course, you have Russell Wilson. And first off, Russell Wilson has a 12-3 records against the 49ers, which is the most against any opponent for Russell Wilson. And then he excels in primetime games. He has a record of 24-5-1 in primetime games in his career. So that's a factor that you have to see in Russell Wilson, that he shows up first against the 49ers and then in primetime games as well when he's under the spotlight. On the other hand, of course, like you said, George Kittle is probably their main receiver right now, other than Emmanuel Sanders, and I believe Emmanuel Sanders was hurt as well. So if you have 2 guys that are not at least 100% or not even playing in that game, you kind of have a little bit of a problem with your quarterback. So it's not all on Jimmy Garoppolo in that game. So I wouldn't write off the 49ers completely after that game or say that Jimmy Garoppolo is not that great a quarterback. Of course, his contract is too high, like Derek said. The guy didn't prove himself before getting, at the time, the biggest contract in football. But when they get Emmanuel Sanders to 100% back and George Kittle back on the field, it's going to be a different team on offense.
Josh?
Yeah, I definitely feel like Garoppolo is there, but he's not there. And I think that has to do more with the wide receiving core that he has compared to like another top quarterback getting paid. It's one thing to have Emmanuel Sanders, but he's getting up there in age. So I think during this next draft, I'd start to get a little bit of a fresher crop of wide receivers coming in, because I think they're one big wide receiver name away from having a pretty solid wide receiving core. And I think they also need one more good tight end to back up George Kittle. But the Seahawks are the Seahawks, as usual, led by Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson never says never, and they win, ending the 49ers' perfect season. Go figure.
All right, so now we have our recap for that week. Now it's time to go on to our topics, and our first topic is about Colin Kaepernick, who basically stated that he will be holding a private workout on Saturday for any NFL executives to show up. From what it's being told, there are about roughly a dozen teams that are sending executives there to that workout. Basically, the big question is does the NFL want Colin Kaepernick back in it? Does a team want to bring Colin Kaepernick in? So, Toby, the questions are, is this workout legit? And if it is, do you think it's going to lead Colin Kaepernick back to the NFL?
I can't really say if it's legit or not. He's getting his chance after the whole legal stuff that went on with the NFL, so they kind of have to give him a chance to have kind of his personal combine again. So that's probably been part of the deal, which never officially went out, what he got in that deal. So, yeah, give it to him. It's not that big of a deal. Let the guy work out. If teams want to come, like you said, about a dozen teams have said they're going to send a scout there to look at the guy. If he's going to come back in the NFL, you can't tell. He hasn't played publicly in 3 years, so you don't know whatever football shape he's in, is he still able to kind of have that football intelligence or the football IQ that he had when he led the 49ers to a Super Bowl, which we already saw the last 2 seasons that he played in the NFL, that he kind of regressed in that department. I'm gonna say there are maybe 2 or 3 teams that could use a quarterback right now that has experience. One of the teams especially being the Broncos with the injury to Joe Flacco. So I'd watch out. Maybe the Broncos are interested in Kaepernick.
Josh?
I'd say if you feel like you need a quarterback and there's nobody else, I'd say take him. Doesn't mean he's going to be a starter. He could be a backup for the rest of his time in the NFL, but if you really, because quarterbacks are hard to come by, you know? I mean, you get lucky with a few here and there, but if you think that he's going to make a definite change to your offense, then I'd say, yeah, go for him. If not, just keep doing what you're doing. That's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, whatever this situation is for Cap, I really don't know what to expect with this. I don't know all the details of all the workout. I'm not 100% sure of them. I know they're out. I don't remember what everything is going to happen there. But it ultimately depends on which teams are sending executives there. And I think it's kind of getting to the point now where the NFL really just doesn't care anymore. Like, Kaepernick, if you want to come back in the NFL, whatever. You don't even really care anymore. We haven't heard you really say anything about kneeling recently. But, you know, you start doing that crap again, then yeah, your butt is gone. But anyway, there are a couple teams out there that could definitely use a Colin Kaepernick right now. We're seeing that. But ultimately the question is does he really have a future? I mean, guys, he's been out of the NFL for 3 years. Been out of the NFL for 3 years. I don't care what quarterback you have that is, it could be Peyton Manning from the time he was 29. You get to be getting to be that old, you know, or you spend that much time away. A lot of times you really take some time to really get back into the rhythm of everything. And he can have these workouts all he wants. Really doesn't change how the flow of a game goes. I mean, ultimately we know what happened the last time he was, you know, he certainly wasn't super great the last time he was in the NFL. So I don't know. I think this definitely could be the lead to him getting into the NFL, but still right now I'm not sure. All right, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is whether or not the Colts should keep Adam Vinatieri. So over this season, Adam Vinatieri is only making 60% of his extra points, and his field goals numbers are not that much higher. They're a little higher, but not that much. And the Colts have now lost 2 games at the helm of Adam Vinatieri, and there's been multiple games where he's cost us more and nearly cost us a lot of games. And whether or not you want to say he was responsible for the Dolphins game, he was definitely a lot responsible for that game, because when he missed the extra point, which kept the Dolphins, which only gave the Colts a 2-point lead instead of a 3-point lead, would have at the end when it was 16-12, could have been 16-13. The Colts could have put him in position to make the field goal, to tie the game, to go into overtime, and we would have probably won. So, yes, Vinatieri has been costing the Colts several games this year. And Frank Reich and Chris Ballard have been preaching accountability. Accountability. You guys have got to do your jobs. You got to come in and do your job. You got to be, or else you're not going to get to play. Well, Chris Ballard and Frank Reich, Adam Vinatieri's been showing up, but he hasn't been doing his job very well. Look, I'm not questioning Frank Reich and Chris Ballard overall. I'm just questioning them on this decision. I do not agree that Adam Vinatieri is the best thing for us right now. You are telling me there is not a single free agent kicker out there that can make more than 60% of his extra points. You're telling me that. You're basically insinuating that. I don't like this decision. I hate it. I think Adam Vinatieri needs to go. As much as I love the guy and as much as I think he's the GOAT, he's the greatest kicker of all time. He's one of the greatest players of all time. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's going to be known as the GOAT of all special teams guys. But look, man, you're not doing your job very well right now. That means you either need to be benched or you need to leave. And I'm sorry, you're 45 years old. I doubt that you're going to get better as time goes along. So my ultimate response to this is Adam Vinatieri needs to go. I don't agree with Frank Reich and Chris Ballard on this decision. Adam Vinny needs to go. Josh, your thoughts on this?
What have I been preaching since that damn
I
Chargers
wish
game?
I didn't even have to ask. I don't even think I need to ask.
Look, even Brett Favre and Peyton Manning knew it was their time to go. You know? And I think Adam Vinatieri thought he could go longer because he's a kicker. But ever since they pushed that extra point back to the 20-yard line, it's made PATs less automatic. So, and I'm tired of praying to the football gods that Adam Vinatieri makes this field goal. Because remember what I told you, Derek, when we were sitting up there?
Mm-hmm.
I said, watch, he's going to miss at least one extra point. It's going to cost us the damn game.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? He missed the extra point and it cost us the damn game. Look, I know that his good years are done. He's past them. And I think if he wanted to right now, he would leave. But since nobody's telling him to get the hell off the field, he's staying out of obligation because of his contract. So I think Ballard and Reich should just go, we're going to start somebody else because we've lost 2 consecutive games to which he could have helped us win. And I know that he's a little bit to do with the fact that we've only been winning our games by the most few points in like NFL history right now. But you just got to know that it's the team before the player. And I think it's time to release Adam Vinatieri and have him retire into the sunset. Because I'm tired of having it go to him and finally go, well, he's probably going to miss this one because he used to be automatic. Not anymore. Not anymore.
All right, Toby.
Yeah, I mean, you guys already put out the stats and all, and I definitely agree with you. For this season, get somebody else on the field and get over it with Adam Vinatieri. I mean, you can't give him the chance to get into a competition with your new kicker next off season, because I think a lot of Adam Vinatieri right now has to do with his mental state after all the extra points and field goal that he has missed over the couple of weeks that he played. So I feel like if he kind of gets it right in his head again and give him the rest of the season off to kind of free his head of it, I think he can still be one of the best kickers in the league. But for right now, cut him for this season, bring him back into training camp next year, make it a kicker competition with your new guy that you bring in. There's definitely better guys out there right now. And if it doesn't work out next year, just retire.
All right, our last topic here before we get into Toby's odds. The Jets owner states that they are confident in Gase's skills and are planning to keep him through 2020. I don't even have to ask Josh because I already know his answer. Toby, is this a good idea or is this a bad idea?
I mean, when they play like they did last week against the Giants, it actually looks like they have, like I said in in the recap segment, they have a decent base to build on. With a couple of drafts and maybe a good off season, they could actually be a decent team and maybe in the spot to get a wild card. They're not gonna get the win in the AFCs because that's booked for the Patriots. That's There's no way the Jets are getting to Patriots level anytime soon. But, I mean, if you see games like last week, you actually think Gase has done something right, but then you have games like he had against, what was the Seeing Ghost game against? I can't remember right now.
That was against the Patriots.
Yeah, it was against the Patriots. So you see that and you think, fire that coach immediately. I think, give him a chance, but doing it that early in the season, I'm not the biggest fan of it.
Josh, do I need to?
You already know my answer, so let's move on to the next subject because we already
know my answer as well. So, all right, Tobi, go ahead.
Tobi's odds.
Oh my gosh, the little lizard right down there just matched up with those coins falling. That should totally be the picture you see when you do that.
All right.
If anyone is wondering, it's Discord where Josh send us memes the whole time, and he's got a lizard down here laughing. So,
all right. So we got 5 games once again this week. The first game, New Orleans against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and if you solely go off last week's game of the Saints and even the Bucs beating the Cardinals, you'd say the Bucs are the favorite in this game, but the Saints are the favorite by 5.5 points, and I think with a hopefully healthy Teron Armstead, the Saints should beat Tampa Bay by more than 5.5 points. So I'm going with the Saints at the favorite with the spread against 5.5 points. The odds -110. The second game is the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Indianapolis Colts, and the Colts are the favorites by 3 points. And if they do not cut Adam Vinatieri before Sunday, I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars at the +3 with the odds at -115.
Well, then you're definitely picking the Jags at +3 because they already confirmed that they were going to be keeping Adam Vinatieri.
All right.
Unfortunately.
So, Jags +3, maybe even outright. The third game is between the New York Jets at the Washington Redskins. And the Washington Redskins are the favorites by 2 points in this game. I think that's the only time the Redskins are a favorite this season. And of course, I'm not going with the Redskins. Jets with +2 at the odds of -110. I'd even go with the Jets outright here as well. The fourth game, the Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins. Of course, the Dolphins are coming off the win against the Colts, and the week before against. Sorry, I'm blanking here.
Bills.
The Bills. Okay, yeah. I thought so, but it's not going to happen again for the Bills. Buffalo, I'm going with -6.5 favorites here. So, like I said, I'm going with the Bills here. The odds -115. They are bouncing back after the loss against Miami 2 weeks ago. The fifth and last game is between the Cincinnati Bengals at the Oakland Raiders. Oakland are the favorites by -10.5 points. Of course, against Cincinnati right now, after benching Andy Dalton, it's not gonna get better. So I'm picking Oakland with the -10.5 at the odds of -110. So once again, the quick recap: New Orleans with -5.5, odds -110. Jags at +3, -115. New York Jets +2. The odds -110, Buffalo at -6.5, the odds -115, and Oakland at -10.5 with the odds -110. So that's my odds for this week, and now we're going to the outright predictions for this week, and we're starting off with the Thursday night game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. So, Josh, go ahead.
Give me the Steelers. I just think that they're going to do it, so I'll take the Steelers. And every time I make a decision now, I know it's not going to be as bad as this week, so I feel more relaxed picking these games.
All right. Yeah, I agree with you, Josh. I think the Steelers this one too. Like I mentioned, the Browns have not been consistent, and the Steelers, like I mentioned before, have been the best team in NFL over the last 6 weeks, and they've been winning the turnover battles like crazy. And if we have seen any indication of what Baker Mayfield is like, expect a few turnovers from the Browns in this game as well. So yeah, I'm going with the Steelers as well.
I'm going the different option here. I'm going with the Browns on this one. I totally agree with you, Derek. The Steelers are probably gonna win the turnover battle, but I believe that the Browns might have figured something out here. I believe they're gonna rush the ball a lot more often against especially Minkah Fitzpatrick with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and that's definitely gonna help him and not put that much on Baker Mayfield. And fun fact in that game, it's actually the first ever game in the NFL that an Oklahoma quarterback plays against the former Oklahoma State quarterback, so there's a little bit of a rivalry there. And the two played each other in college, and they put up over 1,000 yards in that game, so it might be fun to watch.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be watching
for the first quarter, and then everything else afterwards fall apart.
All right, we're moving on to the Sunday games, and the first game on Sunday we're going to talk about is a NFC South battle between the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. So, Derek, go ahead.
I don't expect to do the exact same thing that they did against the Saints. I know the Panthers had a close one. I think the Panthers are going to be revibrant again, being at home. It's going to be in their home stadium, and I think they're going to end up winning this one. So give me the Panthers here.
All right, Josh.
Panthers.
All right, I'm going to go the same route here, and I think the main reason is going to be Christian McCaffrey in this game, and I think they will establish the run a lot more than the Saints did last week. And that's what the Falcons probably can't deal with right now. Next game is between the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. Josh, our Lions expert on the podcast, tell us what you think.
I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one because the Lions are going to Lions it up. That's what's going to happen.
Well, if Matt Stafford can't play, which I'm assuming because he has a hand problem, I'm guessing that means he's most likely going to be missing this week as well. Even if he wasn't missing, I'd still pick the Cowboys here, so give me the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm, of course, also going with the Cowboys since the Lions will be without Kerryon Johnson, of course, for another week, and Matt Stafford. So, if the Lions can't find anything on defense, there should be no chance for them in this one either. The next game is between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Indianapolis Colts, and I mean, I've already said it in my odds segment. I think the Jags will win it because Adam Vinatieri will probably blow another game for the Colts. And yeah, Derek, you go first this time.
You're triggering me right now, Tobi, I gotta admit. I want to pick the Jaguars. I want to in this, but I can't because I'm too big of a Colts homer. Give me the Colts here. I think they bounce back after a very terrible loss Sunday. I think they figure it out. I do think they'll figure it out this time around. And Nick Foles, I know, will be back and playing, but, you know, after being gone for that many weeks, may take him a few quarters to get it figured out. And by that time, hopefully the Colts will have figured it out. So I'm going with the Colts here. Pondering in silence.
Remember what I told you on the way back from Lucas Oil Stadium?
Yeah.
That Adam Vinatieri needs to go?
Yep.
since he's still there,
You're
Where is
not
he?
going to do it.
where is he? I'm picking the Jaguars.
No! Gosh darn it. I'm the only one picking the Colts.
Yep.
Yeah, because until they do something that shows me otherwise, it's the safest bet is to pick against them.
I'm probably going to get that one too. So that's
All right, moving on to the next game. It's between the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. And like I said in my odd segment, once again, I'm going with the Bills here. I don't think they're losing twice to the Dolphins. All right, Derek is also with the Bills. And Josh.
Give me the Bills.
All right, nobody's picking the Miami Dolphins, even when they're 2-0 in November so far. And the next game.
They will be 2-1 after this.
Next game between the Houston Texans and the Baltimore Ravens. Josh.
Ravens. Ravens, please stop the Texans surges going on here, pal. I think the Ravens got this one.
I think the home team gets the added advantage in this one. If it was in the Texans, I'd definitely give it to the Texans. But yeah, I mean, this is the quarterback battle that we've been wanting to see, right? Deshaun Watson versus Lamar Jackson, two young quarterbacks that have been playing at MVP levels all year long. These two have looked great. It's going to be a fun game to watch, I'm sure. I just think the Ravens have just looked like the best team in football for the last few weeks, just with the unstoppable force that is Lamar Jackson and that running game that they have. So give me the Ravens here.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Ravens here. I believe Lamar Jackson is slightly playing better than Deshaun Watson is right now. Of course, they're both playing at the highest level in the NFL right now. And yep. I also think it's not the last time we're going to see this matchup this season. I think we're going to have that one again later this year.
We might.
Or next year, actually. The next game up is between the Denver Broncos and the Minnesota Vikings. Derek.
I want to pick the Broncos here just because I want to think there's something else that the Broncos can offer. But with the way the Vikings looked against the Cowboys, they actually figured it out how to do stuff even without Adam Thielen around. I think the Vikings will get this one. It'll be a close one, but I think the Vikings will have it, especially since they're at home. So give me the Vikings here.
Yeah, I'll take the Vikings because the cook is in session right now, and he's just burning the defense alive, charbroiled and all.
Where do you come up with these analogies? Like, seriously, do you
just come naturally?
Do you just sit in your apartment at night and just think, man, this would be a really good analogy to think of? Or does that just come out of you when it comes out of you?
It just comes out naturally.
I wish I had that talent. Jeez.
Yep. All right. Yeah, I'm also picking the Vikings here against Denver. We said it often so far this season. The Vikings are a different team at home than they are on the road. And against the Broncos right now, I think they're still without Joe Flacco. So it should be a Vikings game. Next game is between the New York Jets and the Washington Redskins. I've already said it in my odd segment. I'm going with the Jets here. I do not have faith in the Redskins right now whatsoever, unless Dwayne Haskins can show me otherwise. Josh, you go first.
Give me the Jets, because I think Jamal Adams is still too much of a field presence.
I third that motion.
All right. Moving on to the last game at 1 p.m. It's between the New Orleans Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And like I said before, I'm going with the Saints here against the Bucs. They will have a bounce back after that terrible game against the Falcons. They just have to not commit those stupid penalties like they have been against the Falcons. Derek, what are your thoughts?
I agree with you 100%. I think they'll bounce back. Usually when a great team has a terrible game like this, they use it as motivation, and especially against the Buccaneers, who obviously this will be the second time they're facing them. I think they're going to want to reiterate just how dominant they are and hopefully shut down Mike Evans again and Jameis Winston. So yeah, I'm going with the Saints here.
The Saints. I choose the Saints. Give it the Saints.
All right, we're moving on to the 4 p.m. games. The first one is between the Arizona Cardinals and the San Francisco 49ers. Josh.
San Francisco 49ers. I think they bounce back.
Yeah, I think they will here too. I know they obviously don't have a George Kittle out there right now. That definitely hurts their wide receiver core. But I think this time they'll come in a little more prepared. They'll be ready to go. And this time they'll be at home. So it'll be a little bit better presence for them. I think they'll bounce back after a tough loss against the Seahawks. So give me the 49ers here as well.
Yeah, I'm also going with the 49ers. I think the Cardinals are just not on the same level as the Seahawks are right now. So I think the 49ers should have an easier time to beat them than they had against the Seahawks last week. The next game is between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Oakland Raiders. And like I've said before, I'm going with the Raiders here. I just don't think the Bengals right now have anything close to being able to win any game right now. Derek, what do you think?
I second that motion. I'm going with the Raiders.
The Raiders. I choose the Raiders. Ho, 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 ho.
Oh my God. Y'all's mics keep cutting out. That's the funny thing.
All right. But we're moving on to the Super Bowl rematch of 2 years ago between the New England Patriots and the Philadelphia Eagles. Josh, are we gonna see the
Philly special?
Yeah.
Philly special.
No, you're only going to see the Philly special in the Subway shop when you order it because the Patriots are going to win.
Yeah, I agree with him as well. There will be no Philly surprise being served in restaurants Sunday. I can definitely tell you that much. Give Bill Belichick an extra week to prepare. I don't care what team you're up against. You just can't pick against him and not. So give me the Patriots here.
Yeah, Derek, you said it. After a bye week for the Patriots, there is no way you're going against the Patriots here. Then we're moving on to the Sunday night game. It's between the Chicago Bears and the LA Rams. The one team is on an upwards trend, the other one on a downwards trend. So who you guys got? Derek, you go first.
I'm gonna change my pick here. This one will surprise you guys. I am going with the Bears here. Okay, I know that's a stretch. I know it is, but I think the Bears just have started to finally figure out a little bit of a formula to get things going. And with the way the Rams have looked the last couple weeks, they just haven't looked in sync offensively. So that definitely hurts them, especially with a good defense like the Bears. So I'm picking the upset, the Bears on the road beating the Rams.
Rams. I'll take the Rams.
All right, I'm gonna side with Josh here. I am.
Darn it!
Despite the fact that the Bears are trending upwards, I don't think I've quite seen enough of the Chicago defense.
Friendly, Josh, Jesus, how friendly. Toby, can we just blur that out? Please?
I'll try to.
Yeah, please do. We don't want to. We're trying
Do
to
it
be
with the laughing
child-friendly
lizard.
here.
Do it with the laughing lizard.
We're
Just have
trying
the
to be child friendly here, okay?
But
well,
yeah,
I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he did it on public television for a while.
Oh, whatever, bro.
Like we're even monetized anyway. You know, YouTube.
We want to be monetized. What you mean?
We're buried here, man.
All right, you two done?
Yeah, we're done.
All right, back to my point. I think
Who the hell said I was done? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Tobi.
Yeah, back to my point. I don't think I haven't quite seen enough of the Chicago defense in the last couple of games that I think the Rams are still that little bit too good that they beat the Bears. So, especially at home for the Rams, I think that's
you guys are
the
just
thing.
teaming up against me this week. You guys are just going up against big old Derek here. You guys want to gain your lead back on me in the rankings, I see.
Yeah, we got to do something about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the last game on Monday Night Football, we have the matchup in Mexico City between the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Chargers. This year they can actually play the game in Mexico again. So, Josh, what do you think?
Chiefs, remember what I told you about the Chargers? They're done winning games after that Packers game.
Again, as much as I disagree with that theory, he hasn't been wrong. So I'm going to take his advice. I'm going with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I kind of got to go with the Chiefs as well. I mean, the Chargers haven't looked that bad the last couple of games. And like I said, all their losses came with in a one-score game, but I feel like the Chiefs have to bounce back at some point again. I believe this is the game that it's gonna happen. So that's it for the predictions, and I'm gonna hand it back over to Derek.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at T3DS_NFL. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to follow us and listen on Spotify. And also, don't forget, guys, Christmas is right around the corner. So be sure to go onto our main page, click on the link in the description. You'll see where our merch site is. A bunch of cool merch ideas for anyone in the family, including yourself, especially the new Tampa 2 Josh special line that Tobi just released. It's definitely some very cool, funny stuff. So be sure to check all that out. They have a bunch of different options up there for you. But as always, guys, peace.
See ya.
Later.